Ambassador Elena Kovac stood in the center of the massive chamber, feeling the weight of 1,000 alien eyes upon her. The Galactic Council Station floated in neutral space, a structure so vast it could swallow Earth's moon. She had been here before, twice in fact, with the same request. Today marked the third attempt, and deep in her gut she already knew the answer. The chamber was an architectural marvel, designed to accommodate species of every shape and size. Aquatic tanks held the Depth Collective, their bioluminescent bodies pulsing with what Elena had learned to recognize as contempt. Crystalline luminarcs floated in zero-gravity sections, their faceted bodies refracting light into rainbow patterns. And on the central dais, the insectoid Virtok dominated the space, their chitinous armor gleaming under the artificial lights. High Arbiter Zexthal leaned forward, his mandibles clicking in a rhythm that the translation device rendered as dismissive laughter. Elena kept her face neutral, a skill she had perfected during her years in the military before becoming Earth's chief diplomat. Ambassador Kovac, Zexthal's voice echoed through the chamber, translated into hundreds of languages simultaneously. The Council has reviewed humanity's petition for full membership. For the third consecutive cycle, we must decline. Elena had expected this, but hearing it spoken aloud still sent a flash of anger through her chest. She buried it deep, maintaining the diplomatic mask that had served her so well. May I ask the Council's reasoning? A luminarch named Crystal Choir chimed in, its voice like bells. Your species presents unique challenges. You evolved on a Class 12 death world. Such planets produce inhabitants with concerning traits. Concerning traits, Elena repeated slowly. We have complied with every demand the Council has made. We reduced our military fleet by 60%. We opened our borders to Council inspectors. We ceased expansion beyond our 12 colony worlds. What more do you require? Zexthal's compound eyes fixed on her, and Elena saw something in that alien gaze that made her blood run cold. It was not fear or caution. It was disgust. You misunderstand, Ambassador. It is not what you do that concerns us. It is what you are. The chamber fell silent. Even the constant background hum of translation devices seemed to pause. Your world should have killed you, Zexthal continued. Gravity 1.3 times galactic standard. Predators that hunt in packs. Diseases that evolve faster than any known pathogen. Weather patterns that can destroy entire cities. Tectonic activity that reshapes continents. And yet you survived. More than survived, you thrived. You built civilizations in the harshest environments. You conquered your own world through sheer brutality. Elena's hands clenched into fists at her sides. We survived through cooperation, through innovation, through the same intelligence that every species in this chamber used to reach the stars. No, Zixthal's voice turned sharp. You survived through violence. It is encoded in your very DNA. Every cell in your body is built for a war that never ends. Your immune system fights battles every moment of every day. Your bones are dense enough to withstand impacts that would shatter ours. Your muscles can operate at efficiency levels that would tear apart other species. You are weapons, Ambassador, wearing the disguise of civilization. A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. Elena looked around, seeing the same sentiment reflected in alien faces. They were not afraid of humanity's ships or weapons. They were afraid of humans themselves. The Council has new terms, Zixthal announced. Humanity will reduce its military fleet by an additional 40%. You will accept permanent peacekeeping monitors on Earth and all colony worlds. You will submit all new technology for Council approval before implementation. And you will cease all reproduction beyond replacement rates until your population stabilizes at current levels. Elena's diplomatic mask cracked. You are asking us to disarm completely and stop having children. That is not membership. That is subjugation. That is protection, Crystal Choir chimed. The Council protects the galaxy from threats. Currently, Ambassador, the greatest threat is your species' violent nature. We have never attacked a Council member, Elena said through gritted teeth. Not yet, Zexthal replied. But you will. Your history is written in blood. Your entertainment glorifies conflict. Your children play games of warfare. Even your sports involve controlled violence. You call it competition, but we see it for what it truly is. Training for the war you will inevitably wage. Elena took a deep breath, forcing calm into her voice. The Council asked humanity to prove we could be peaceful. We have done so for 100 years. We have followed every rule, met every demand, and restricted ourselves in ways no other species has been asked to endure. And still you see us as nothing more than primitives from a death world. That is because you are primitives, Zixthal said. And for the first time, his tone carried something close to pity. Your species achieved space travel in less than 70 years after discovering powered flight. You built weapons capable of destroying your own planet before you even left your solar system. You are brilliant, Ambassador, but you are also dangerous. The Council protects the galaxy from you, not with you. The words hung in the air like a sentence of execution. Elena felt 100 years of human patience and restraint crumbling inside her. But she was a professional, and professionals did not lose their composure in front of hostile powers. The Council requires an answer within 1 standard week, Zixthal continued. Accept our terms or Earth will be declared a quarantine zone. No ships in or out, no trade. No communication. You will have your isolation, but you will never have membership. Elena straightened her spine, drawing herself up to her full height. In Earth's gravity, she stood 1.7 meters tall. Here, in the station's galactic standard 0.8 gravity, she felt like a giant among children. I request a recess to consult with my government. Granted, Zixthal waved a clawed hand dismissively. You have 6 hours. Elena turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps heavy in the light gravity. Dr. Sarah Chen, humanities xenobiologist and cultural liaison, fell into step beside her. Sarah's face was carefully neutral, but Elena could see the fury in her eyes. They passed through corridors filled with alien species, all of whom moved aside quickly. Elena noticed how they watched humans walk, studying the way Earth's children moved through the lighter gravity, with the casual power of apex predators. The aliens did not see scientists or diplomats when they looked at humans. They saw monsters wearing human skin. As they approached the docking bay where the human delegation's ships waited, Elena caught sight of the viewing port. Through the transparent aluminum she could see the human convoy. 3 diplomatic vessels, small and unarmed according to Council regulations, but surrounding them, like sharks circling prey, were dozens of alien warships. Council escort vessels, they were called. Prison guards would be more accurate. The UN's Indomitable sat in the center of the convoy, humanity's flagship and the pride of the Earth United Naval Service. Captain Marcus Webb would be aboard, waiting for her report, waiting for orders. Elena's personal communicator vibrated. She pulled it from her pocket and read the encrypted message. It took her a moment to decode it, but when she did, her heart began to beat faster. The message was from Earth Defense Command, signed by Admiral Kowalski himself. It contained only 7 words, but those 7 words changed everything. Operation Steel Resolve is authorized. Await signal. Elena looked at Sarah, then back at the viewing port where alien warships surrounded human vessels like a noose. She thought about Zixthal's words, about 100 years of human restraint treated as weakness, about an entire species judged not by their actions but by the world that birthed them. She smiled, and it was not a diplomatic smile. It was the smile of a predator who had finally been given permission to bare her teeth. Sarah, Elena said quietly, tell Captain Webb I will be returning to the Indomitable within the hour, and tell him to prepare the ship for immediate departure. What about the Council's deadline? Sarah asked. Elena's smile widened. They gave us 6 hours to decide. I have already decided, but first I think it is time the Council learned something important about Deathworlders. What is that? We are very, very good at patience, Elena said. Right up until the moment we are not. The shuttle ride back to the Indomitable gave Elena time to think. Through the viewport she watched the stars drift past, each one representing worlds she would never visit, species she would never meet, all because humanity came from the wrong kind of planet. The injustice of it burned in her chest like acid. Her mind drifted back to the beginning, to first contact. She had been a young lieutenant then, fresh out of the academy and full of hope. The day the Virtok ships appeared in Earth's orbit had been the greatest moment in human history. Humanity was not alone. The galaxy was full of life, of civilizations that had mastered the stars thousands of years before humans even invented writing. She remembered the excitement, the celebrations in every city on Earth. Finally, humanity would take its place among the galactic community. Finally, the wars and divisions that had plagued human history would seem small compared to the vast universe waiting to be explored. That optimism had lasted exactly 3 days. The Virtok scientists had analyzed, Earth with their advanced sensors, measuring everything from gravity to atmospheric composition. When they delivered their report, the excitement died. Earth was classified as a Class 12 death world, one of the most hostile environments in known space. Only 17 other worlds in the entire galaxy shared that classification, and none of them had produced sentient life until humanity. The Virtok explained that most species evolved on worlds with gravity below 0.8 standard, with stable climates and abundant resources. Conflict was rare because resources were plentiful. Predators were small and easily avoided. Disease was uncommon. These paradise worlds produced peaceful species who reached the stars through cooperation and slow, steady progress. Earth was different. Earth was a nightmare world where everything tried to kill you. Humans evolved in 1.3 gravity, which made their bones dense and their muscles powerful. They came from a world of ice ages and volcanic eruptions, of predators with claws and teeth, of microscopic organisms that evolved faster than any defense. Humans learned to hunt in packs, to make weapons, to fight and kill because that was the only way to survive. The Virtok made their position clear. Humans were dangerous. Not because they chose to be, but because their biology left them no choice. Elena shook her head, pulling herself back to the present. The shuttle was docking with the Indomitable now, the mechanical clamps engaging with a solid thunk that she felt through the hull. Captain Marcus Webb was waiting for her in the docking bay. He was a tall man, even by human standards, with gray hair and a face that looked like it had been carved from granite. He had served in the Earth United Naval Service for 30 years, and he carried himself with the confidence of someone who had faced death and walked away. "Ambassador," Webb said, his voice formal but his eyes questioning. "Captain," Elena replied, "we need to talk privately." They walked through the corridors of the Indomitable, passing crew members who stopped and saluted as they passed. The ship was built to human specifications, which meant the corridors were narrow and the ceilings low by galactic standards. But it also meant the ship could perform maneuvers that would kill any other species' crew. High G burns were survivable for humans because they evolved in high gravity. What felt crushing to a Virtok was merely uncomfortable to a human. In Webb's ready room, Elena pulled out her communicator and activated the quantum link. The device hummed to life, creating a secure connection that could not be intercepted or monitored. Within seconds, faces appeared on the screen. The governors of humanity's 12 colony worlds, Admiral Kowalski from Earth Defense Command, and Dr. Sarah Chen, who had returned to her own ship. "Report," Kowalski said without preamble. He was an old soldier, not given to small talk. Elena told them everything. The Council's demands, the insults, the barely concealed contempt. When she finished, the screen was silent for a long moment. 40% reduction, the governor of Mars said finally. That would leave us with barely enough ships to patrol our own systems. And the reproduction restrictions, the governor of Titan added. They are asking us to slowly die out. They are asking us to surrender, Elena corrected. Not in words, but in effect. They want humanity neutered, monitored, and controlled. What are our options? Kowalski asked. Elena glanced at Webb, who nodded. Operation Steel Resolve, she said. It is time. Dr. Chen's face appeared larger on the screen. She had been working on something Elena knew, some kind of analysis of Council species. Before we commit to this, you all need to understand what we are dealing with. I have spent 10 years studying every Council species, and I have found something important. Go on, Kowalski said. Every single Council species evolved on what we would call paradise worlds, Sarah explained. Low gravity, stable climates, abundant resources. They have never known true hardship. Their wars are ceremonial, fought with strict rules and minimal casualties. The concept of total war, of fighting for survival, is completely foreign to them. So they are soft, the Mars governor said. More than soft, Sarah continued. They are fragile. The average Virtok can be killed by impacts that would just bruise a human. The luminarchs require specific atmospheric conditions or they begin to deteriorate. The Depth Collective cannot survive outside their tanks for more than an hour. They are advanced, yes, but they are also vulnerable in ways they do not even recognize. And they fear us because we are not, Elena said, understanding dawning. Exactly, Sarah said. They do not fear our weapons or our ships. They fear what we represent. A species that should have died but instead conquered their own world. They look at humans and see something impossible, something that breaks every rule they understand about how life evolves. Webb leaned forward. What about their military capabilities? Superior numbers, Kowalski said, pulling up tactical displays. The Council has over 4,000 warships. Our official fleet numbers 140 vessels after the reductions we already made. Official fleet, Webb repeated, and Elena caught the slight emphasis on the word official. Kowalski smiled, and it was a smile that would have made the Virtok's worst fears come true. For the past 20 years, we have been preparing for this possibility. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt is also a hidden shipyard. Every scientific research station doubles as a military outpost. Every civilian freighter has been built with military-grade reactors and weapon mounts. How many ships do we actually have? Elena asked. 600 combat-ready warships, Kowalski said, and another 200 that could be converted from civilian use within 72 hours. The governors erupted in surprised exclamations. Even Elena, who had suspected humanity was preparing something, had not realized the scale. That is still outnumbered 6-1, the Titan governor pointed out. True, Webb said, but our ships are built to different standards. Council vessels are designed for 0.8 gravity. Ours operate in 1.3. That means our structural integrity is 60% higher. Our crews can survive acceleration burns that would pulp Council personnel. Our combat doctrine is based on Earth military history, which is considerably more vicious than anything the Council has ever seen. There is something else, Sarah added. I have analyzed every recorded Council military engagement for the past 1,000 years. They fight like chess players, moving pieces on a board according to established rules. They expect their enemies to do the same. But humans do not fight like that. No, Elena said quietly. We fight like survivors, like cornered animals, like Deathworlders. The vote was unanimous. All 12 colony governors agreed. Kowalski agreed. Webb agreed. Even Dr. Chen, who had dedicated her life to understanding and building bridges with alien species, agreed. Humanity had tried peace. They had tried compromise. They had tried patience. It was time to try something else. There is one problem, Elena said. The Council has detained the colony ship New Hope. 15,000 civilians on their way to establish a settlement. The ship was intercepted 3 hours ago by a Virtok battle group. The screen went silent. They are hostages, the Mars governor said. Yes, Elena agreed. And that gives us the justification we need. They have moved from insults to action. They have taken our people. Then we go get them, Kowalski said. Operation Steel Resolve is now active. Captain Webb, prepare your fleet for immediate deployment. Ambassador Kovac, I believe you have one more meeting with the Council. Elena smiled, and it was not a diplomatic smile. Yes, I do. And I think it is time they learned something important about humans. What is that? Sarah asked. We tried to show them we were civilized, Elena said. Now we will show them why our world tried so hard to kill us. And why it failed. The quantum link disconnected. Elena stood, straightening her diplomatic jacket. In 6 hours she would return to the Council chamber. But this time she would not be begging for acceptance. This time she would be delivering an ultimatum. Captain Webb stood as well. I will prepare the fleet. How much time do I have? 1 hour, Elena said. After that, the Council will learn what happens when you take a Deathworlders family. Webb nodded and left the room. Elena stood alone for a moment, looking out the viewport at the distant stars. Somewhere out there, 15,000 humans were prisoners. Somewhere out there, 4,000 alien warships thought themselves invincible. They were about to learn differently. Elena left the ready room and headed back to her shuttle. She had 1 hour to return to the Council station. 1 hour before everything changed. Peace was about to end. And it would end the moment the human fleet moved. Elena walked back into the Council chamber exactly 1 hour after leaving it. The alien delegates were still there, waiting with the patient superiority of species who believed time was on their side. High Arbiter Zexthal looked up as she entered, his mandibles clicking in what might have been amusement. Ambassador Kovac, we did not expect you back so soon. Has Earth decided to accept our terms? Elena walked to the center of the chamber, her footsteps echoing in the vast space. She did not bow, did not show any of the deference that Council protocol demanded. Instead, she stood straight, her hands clasped behind her back in a military parade rest that made several aliens shift uncomfortably. No, Elena said simply. Earth rejects your terms. All of them, the chamber erupted. Delegates shouted in hundreds of languages, the translation devices creating a cacophony of outrage and disbelief. Zixtal raised his clawed hands for silence, and gradually the noise subsided. You reject our terms, Ixtal repeated slowly. You understand this means quarantine. Earth will be cut off from all galactic trade, all communication, all contact with Council space. I understand, Elena said. But before you implement this quarantine, I suggest you return the 15,000 civilians you are currently holding hostage. Ixtal's compound eyes widened slightly. Hostage? The colony ship New Hope is being held for routine inspection. Standard security procedures. With a battle group of 40 warships? Elena asked. That is not routine inspection. That is detention. You are holding our people to force our compliance. We are ensuring they do not violate quarantine zones, Zixtal said smoothly. The Council has decided that humanity's expansion must be monitored. The New Hope was traveling to an unapproved world. A world we surveyed and claimed 10 years ago, Elena shot back. A claim the Council never disputed until now. Zixtal leaned forward, and Elena saw the calculation in his alien features. He thought he held all the cards. He thought humanity would back down when faced with overwhelming force. Perhaps this situation could be resolved if Earth reconsidered its position. Accept our terms and the New Hope will be released immediately. Elena smiled, and several nearby delegates actually flinched. You have 1 hour to release that ship and its passengers unharmed. The chamber fell completely silent. Even the background hum of translation devices seemed to fade. Zixtal stared at her, and for the first time Elena saw genuine confusion on his alien face. You are making demands? You? Zixtal's voice rose. Ambassador, perhaps you do not understand your situation. Let me make it clear. He activated the chamber's holographic display, and suddenly the air filled with images. The New Hope floated in space, a massive colony ship designed to carry 15,000 people, and all the equipment needed to start a new world. Surrounding it were 40 Virtok warships, their weapons clearly visible. Your colony ship is secured, Zixtal said. It will be returned when humanity accepts additional security protocols. You are in no position to make demands. Elena looked at the hologram, then back at Zixtal. Her smile never wavered. 1 hour, or what? Crystal Choir chimed in, the Luminarch's voice carrying genuine curiosity. You have 140 warships against our 4,000. Your fleet is scattered across your 12 colony worlds. Even if you gathered every ship, you would be outnumbered 30-1. What can you possibly threaten us with? You will find out in 59 minutes if you do not release our people, Elena said calmly. Ixtal's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of agitation. This is absurd. You cannot threaten the Council. You cannot. His words cut off as alerts began flashing throughout the chamber. Delegates looked at their personal devices, their alien faces showing confusion, then alarm, then something close to fear. What is happening? Zixtal demanded. One of his aides scurried forward, clicking rapidly. Hi, Arbiter. Our monitoring stations are reporting anomalies. Human vessels are disappearing from our sensors. Disappearing? Zixtal's voice rose to a screech. Ships do not just disappear. They are not disappearing, Elena said quietly. They are moving, and they are being joined by others. On the holographic display, the chamber's tactical systems began updating. Red icons appeared representing human ships. First dozens, then hundreds. Council monitoring stations across the galaxy were detecting the same thing. Humanity's fleet was mobilizing, and it was far larger than anyone had believed possible. Impossible, Zixtal whispered. You only have 140 warships. We counted them. We monitored them. You monitored the ships we let you see, Elena said. Did you really think we would disarm completely? Did you think we would trust species who treat us with contempt? We have been preparing for this possibility for 20 years. Every mining station, every research outpost, every civilian shipyard has been building ships. Not the civilian freighters you expected, but warships. Quietly, secretly, and now they are all moving. The holographic display showed the truth of her words. Human ships were converging from across known space, their transponders now broadcasting military identification codes. The number climbed steadily, 200, 300, 400. 600, Elena said as the count stabilized. 600 combat-ready warships, Captain. All of them built to withstand the gravity and conditions of a Class 12 death world. All of them crewed by people who evolved to survive the impossible. Zexthal stared at the display, his alien features showing an emotion Elena had never seen from a Vertok before. Fear. "What are you doing?" "I am giving you a choice," Elena said. "Release the New Hope, or learn what Deathworlders are capable of when you threaten their families." "This is insanity," Crystal Choir chimed. "You are still outnumbered 6-1. You cannot win a war against the Council." "Perhaps not," Elena agreed. "But we can make you regret starting one. How many of your ships are you willing to lose? How many of your people are you ready to sacrifice? Because I promise you, High Arbiter, if you force this fight, we will take as many of you with us as we can." The tactical display suddenly updated again. 3 human destroyers had just entered the same system as the New Hope. The Vertok battle group that had seemed so overwhelming moments ago now faced a direct challenge. "Call them off," Zexthal shrieked. "Order your ships to stand down." "No," Elena said simply. "You wanted to know what humans are capable of. Now you will see. Those 3 destroyers have orders to retrieve our people. Your battle group can withdraw, or it can try to stop them." On the display, the engagement began. The entire council chamber watched in stunned silence as the battle unfolded in real time. The Vertok commander, confident in his 40-3 advantage, ordered his fleet to surround the human destroyers. It was a classic council tactic, overwhelming force applied from all sides, forcing surrender without significant casualties. The human ships did not surrender. Instead, they accelerated, not the gentle burns that council ships used, but full combat acceleration that pushed human crews deep into their reinforced seats. The G-forces would have killed any council species instantly. For humans, it was merely painful. The human destroyers moved like nothing the council had ever seen. They did not follow the predictable patterns of council warfare. They spun and dove using 3-dimensional space in ways that seemed impossible. Their targeting systems, designed by minds that had evolved tracking prey across African plains, locked onto Vertok ships with terrifying accuracy. The first Vertok ship died in seconds, a human railgun, firing projectiles at a significant fraction of light speed, punched through its shields and armor like they were not there. The ship's reactor breached and it vanished in a flash of light. Then the second ship died, and the third. The Vertok battle group tried to fall back into defensive formation, but the human ships were already among them. At close range, where council tactics called for careful maneuvering and precision strikes, the humans fought like brawlers in a street fight. They rammed when necessary, using their reinforced hulls as weapons. They fired at point-blank range, trading armor for certain kills. It was brutal. It was vicious. It was warfare as humanity had practiced it for thousands of years, now brought to space. 11 minutes after the engagement began, it was over. 38 Vertok ships were destroyed or disabled. The remaining 2 had fled. The 3 human destroyers had damage, some of it severe, but all 3 were still combat capable. And the New Hope was free. The council chamber was absolutely silent. Every delegate stared at the tactical display, unable to process what they had just witnessed. 3 ships had destroyed a battle group. 3 ships crewed by Deathworlders had just rewritten the rules of space combat. Elena let the silence stretch for a long moment before speaking. "That was 3 ships, High Arbiter. We have 600 more, and every single one is crewed by humans who just watched you take their families hostage. How many more Vertok ships are you willing to lose?" Zexthal seemed to have lost the ability to speak. It was Crystal Choir who finally responded, the Luminarch's chiming voice subdued. "What do you want?" "What we have always wanted," Elena said. "Respect, recognition, to be judged by our actions, not by the world we come from. But since you seem incapable of giving us that, we will settle for something simpler. Leave us alone." "The Council cannot allow," Zexthal began. "The Council has no choice," Elena interrupted. "You can recognize our sovereignty and our territorial claims, or you can try to enforce your will with military force. Based on what you just saw, how do you think that will end?" Zexthal looked around the chamber, seeking support from the other delegates. He found none. Every species present had just watched 3 human ships do the impossible. The thought of facing 600 of them was clearly terrifying. "This is not over," Zexthal said finally, his voice weak. The Council will respond. We have 4,000 ships. Then come, Elena said coldly. Send your fleets. We will be waiting. But remember this moment, High Arbiter. Remember that you forced this. We tried peace. We tried patience. We tried compromise. And you threw it back in our faces, then took our people hostage. Elena turned to leave, then paused and looked back over her shoulder. You called us violent. You called us primitives. You said we were weapons wearing the disguise of civilization. Maybe you were right. But you made one critical mistake. What mistake? Zexthal asked. You forgot that weapons can be pointed at you. Elena walked out of the chamber, leaving behind a council that had just learned a terrible truth. Deathworlders were not just dangerous because of what they could do. They were dangerous because they would actually do it. Behind her, the tactical displays continued updating as human ships moved into defensive positions around every colony world. The message was clear. Humanity would not be conquered, would not be controlled, and would not go quietly into the night. Peace had ended, and it had ended the moment the human fleet moved. 72 hours after the New Hope incident, the Council made its decision. High Arbiter Zexthal, his pride wounded and his authority challenged, ordered the first response fleet to intercept the human armada. 800 warships representing 12 different Council species gathered at Kepler Junction, a strategic waypoint that controlled access to dozens of Council worlds. Admiral Shalara, a luminarch with centuries of military experience, commanded the fleet from her flagship, the Eternal Radiance. She had studied the recordings of the New Hope engagement obsessively, trying to understand how 3 human ships had defeated 40 Virtok vessels. Her conclusion was simple. The Virtok commander had been overconfident and foolish. She would not make the same mistake. The human fleet arrived exactly when her tactical computers predicted. 600 ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in a ragged formation that made Shalara's tactical officers shake their heads in dismay. The humans flew like pirates, not a proper military force. No geometric patterns, no coordinated spacing. It was chaos. Shalara opened a channel on all frequencies. Human vessels, you are ordered to stand down. You face overwhelming force. Surrender, and the Council will show mercy. The response came from the UEN's indomitable humanities flagship. Captain Marcus Webb's face appeared on her screen, and Shalara was struck by how predatory human features were. Forward-facing eyes designed for tracking prey, teeth that could tear flesh. This was what evolution on a Deathworld created, Admiral, Webb said, his voice calm. You wanted to see what Deathworlders can do. Now you will learn. The channel closed. Shalara gave the order to attack. The Council fleet moved into position with practiced precision. 800 ships arranged themselves in a sphere formation, surrounding the human fleet from all sides. It was the standard Council tactic for dealing with numerically inferior forces. Cut off all escape routes, apply pressure from multiple vectors, force surrender through the simple mathematics of superior firepower. The human fleet did not try to escape. They did not try to negotiate. Instead, they did something Shalara had never seen in 400 years of military service. They attacked, not as a coordinated force but as individuals. Each human ship picked its own target and engaged with a ferocity that seemed almost insane. They dove into the Council formation, breaking apart the carefully arranged sphere with sheer audacity. Shalara watched in growing horror as her tactical display dissolved into chaos. A human destroyer executed a burn that should have killed its crew, spinning on its axis while maintaining forward velocity, bringing its weapons to bear on 3 Council ships simultaneously. A human cruiser rammed a Virtok carrier, its reinforced prow shearing through the lighter alien hull like paper. The Council fleet tried to reform, to re-establish the orderly patterns that had served them well for millennia, but the humans would not let them. They fought like sharks in a feeding frenzy, each ship operating independently but somehow maintaining a larger tactical awareness. How are they coordinating? Shalara's tactical officer asked, confusion clear in his chiming voice. They have no central command structure. Each ship is acting alone. They do not need coordination, Shalara said, understanding dawning with terrible clarity. They are not following orders. They are following instinct. This is how predators hunt. The Kepler Junction's asteroid field became a 3-dimensional battlefield unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Human ships use the asteroids for cover, for weapons, for ramming platforms. They moved through the debris field with a confidence that came from evolving on a world where obstacles were everywhere, and safety was nowhere. The Indomitable led the charge, Captain Webb pushing his ship to limits that would have torn apart any Council vessel. A Luminarch battleship, its crystalline structure gleaming, moved to intercept. The two ships exchanged fire at ranges measured in kilometers, their weapons lighting up the darkness of space. The Luminarch ship fired first, its energy beams designed to overwhelm shields through sustained bombardment. The Indomitable's shields flickered but held. Then Webb returned fire. Human railguns were simple weapons by Council standards. No exotic energy, no dimensional manipulation, just solid projectiles accelerated to tremendous speeds. The Council considered them primitive. But when a tungsten rod traveling at a significant fraction of light speed hit a target, sophistication did not matter. The Luminarch battleship's shields collapsed. Its crystalline hull, beautiful and deadly, shattered like glass. The ship did not explode. It simply came apart, breaking into millions of fragments that sparkled in the light of distant stars. But the battle was taking its toll on the humans too. The Indomitable took a direct hit from a Viertok plasma cannon. The bridge was breached, exposing half the command crew to vacuum. Any Council species would have lost control of the ship at that moment. Human crews wore vacuum suits as standard procedure. Captain Webb, his arm broken from being thrown against a bulkhead, crawled to auxiliary control. Blood floated in zero gravity, forming perfect spheres that drifted past his helmet. Another species would have gone into shock from the pain. Webb simply gritted his teeth and kept moving. From auxiliary control, he continued commanding his ship. The Indomitable had lost primary weapons, had hull breaches on 6 decks, and had lost 30% of its crew. By Council standards, it was a derelict, a ship that should withdraw for repairs. Webb ordered it forward into the thickest part of the fighting. All ships, he transmitted to the human fleet. Hit them hard. Show them what it cost to threaten our families. The Indomitable charged a Council carrier that was coordinating the enemy formation. The carrier's captain, seeing the damaged human ship approaching, assumed it was attempting to ram. He ordered his ship to evade, breaking formation and creating a gap in the Council's defensive line. Webb had no intention of ramming. Instead, he used the carrier's evasive maneuver to get the Indomitable into position. At point-blank range, his secondary weapons opened fire, tearing into the carrier's hangar bays. Explosions rippled through the massive ship as its own fighters and munitions detonated. The carrier was dying, but so was the Indomitable. Too much damage, too many system failures. Webb knew his ship had minutes left. All hands abandon ship, he ordered. This is not a drill. Get to the escape pods now. As the crew evacuated, Webb stayed at his post in auxiliary control. He input a final series of commands, overriding every safety system, pushing the reactor past its limits. The Indomitable's reactor began to overload. Webb set a collision course with the Council carrier, then ran for the last escape pod. The explosion, when it came, was visible across the entire Kepler junction. The Indomitable and the Council carrier vanished in a flash of light that briefly outshone the system's star. The shockwave sent debris flying in all directions, forcing both human and Council ships to scatter. In the chaos, the human fleet pressed their advantage. Without the carrier to coordinate them, the Council ships fell into disarray. Some tried to retreat, others tried to hold position, and still others attempted to reform their defensive sphere. The lack of unified command proved fatal. One by one, Council ships began to withdraw, not in an organized retreat but in panic. Admiral Shalara tried to rally her fleet, but the simple truth was that her ships were not built for this kind of warfare. They were designed for the calculated conflicts of Council space, where battles were fought according to established rules and ships withdrew when damage reached certain thresholds. The humans had no such rules. They fought until their ships were wrecks, then fought some more. They took damage that should have forced surrender, and used it as motivation to fight harder. All ships fall back to Rally Point Delta, Shalara finally ordered. It hurt her pride to give the command, but she had lost over 300 ships. 300 ships against a force that should have been easy to defeat. As the Council fleet withdrew, the humans did not pursue. Their own losses had been severe. 40% of their fleet was destroyed or too damaged to continue fighting. But they held the Kepler junction. They held the gateway to Council space. On one of the human rescue ships picking up survivors from the Indomitable, Captain Marcus Webb floated in a medical pod. His broken arm was splinted, his other injuries treated. He was alive, and so were most of his crew. A young ensign approached, his face showing the exhaustion that came after combat. "Captain, Admiral Kowalski wants to know if we can continue operations." Webb looked at the tactical display. The Kepler junction was theirs. The Council fleet was in full retreat, and somewhere in Council space, High Arbiter ZX Thal would be receiving reports of this defeat. "Tell the Admiral yes," Webb said. "We can continue, but also tell him we need reinforcements. The Council will not take this defeat lightly." The ensign saluted and left. Webb closed his eyes, letting exhaustion take him for a moment. They had won the first major engagement, but this war was far from over. In the Council chamber, High Arbiter ZX Thal received Admiral Shalara's report with growing fury. 300 ships lost. The humans held Kepler Junction, and across the galaxy, other species were watching, seeing the Council's military might prove inadequate against a single species. "Mobilize the Armada," Zixthal ordered. "Every ship, every weapon. We will crush these primitives once and for all." A young Luminarch delegate named Prism of Dawn spoke up, her chiming voice hesitant. "High Arbiter, perhaps we should consider negotiation. The humans have proven they can fight. Maybe we were wrong to—" "Silence!" Zexthal shrieked. "I will not negotiate with animals. We will destroy them, and we will do it in a way that leaves no doubt about the Council's power." He turned to his military advisors. "Activate the Stellar Cascade device. Target Sol system. We will eliminate the Death World and its inhabitants permanently." The chamber fell silent. The Stellar Cascade device was a weapon of last resort, capable of destabilizing a star and destroying an entire system. It had not been used in 5,000 years. "High Arbiter," Crystal Choir said carefully. "That weapon will kill billions." "Are you certain?" "I am certain that humanity must be eliminated," Zixthal said. "They are a cancer in the galaxy, and we will cut them out. Prepare the device. We end this now." Across the galaxy on a dozen human worlds, sensors detected the Stellar Cascade device being moved from its storage facility. Warning klaxons sounded in every military command center. The Council was bringing out their ultimate weapon, and its target was Earth itself. Earth had faced extinction before. Asteroid impacts, ice ages, volcanic winters that blocked out the sun for years. Every time life had survived. Every time humanity had endured. But those were natural disasters, forces of nature without malice or intent. The Stellar Cascade device was different. It was extinction by design. Admiral James Kowalski stood in Earth Defense Command, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, watching tactical displays that showed the Council's dreadnought approaching Sol system. The massive vessel was escorted by 200 warships, the largest fleet ever assembled in known history. And at its heart, the Cascade device pulsed with enough energy to turn Earth's sun into a supernova. 8 billion people looked to the sky, knowing what was coming. The news had spread within hours of the device's activation. There was no panic, no riots, no desperate scrambles for shelter. There was no shelter from what was coming. Instead, humanity did what it had always done when facing impossible odds. They prepared to fight. Every ship, military and civilian, moved into defensive positions around Earth. Orbital weapons platforms that had been built to defend against asteroids were now aimed at empty space, waiting for the Council fleet to arrive. Luna Base launched every fighter it had. Mars sent its fleet. Even the colony worlds, knowing they might never see Earth again, sent what ships they could spare. Kowalski activated the global broadcast system. His face appeared on every screen, every device, every communication network across Earth and its colonies. "People of Earth," he began, his voice steady, "we face extinction. The Council has decided that humanity is too dangerous to exist. They bring a weapon that will destroy our sun and everything in this system. They expect us to surrender, to accept death quietly." He paused, looking directly into the camera. "I say we give them a different answer. We are the children of Earth, a world that tried to kill us every day for millions of years. We are survivors. We are Deathworlders. And today we show the galaxy what that means." The broadcast ended. Across 8 billion people, the response was unanimous. No surrender. No retreat. If they were going to die, they would die fighting. The Council fleet arrived at the edge of the Sol system 96 hours after the Kepler Junction battle. High Arbiter ZX Thal commanded the operation personally, his flagship leading the massive armada, He looked at the tactical displays showing Earth's defenders and felt nothing but contempt. "They cannot stop us," he said to his command staff. 200 warships and the most powerful weapon ever created. The humans are brave, I will grant them that. But bravery without wisdom is just another word for stupidity. He opened a channel to Earth. "Humans of Earth, you have fought well. But this ends now. Surrender, accept Council authority, and we will be merciful. We will evacuate your people before the device activates. Resist and you will all die." The response came from Admiral Kowalski. "You want to know what Deathworlders are capable of? Come to Earth. We will show you." Zxthal cut the channel and gave the order. "Advance. Destroy their defensive fleet, then activate the device." The Council fleet moved forward, their 200 warships forming a protective sphere around the dreadnought. It was a formation designed to be impenetrable, with overlapping fields of fire and redundant defensive positions. The human fleet was outnumbered 4-1. Their ships were damaged from the Kepler Junction battle, patched up with jury-rigged repairs and sheer determination. By every logical analysis, they should lose, but logic had never stopped humanity before. The battle began at the orbit of Neptune. Human ships struck like wolves, darting in to attack vulnerable points in the Council formation before withdrawing. They used the outer planet's gravity wells to slingshot around, gaining velocity that let them ram Council ships with devastating effect. Luna Base's fighters swarmed like angry insects, too small for the Council's big guns, but perfect for attacking sensor arrays and communication equipment. The Council fleet's coordination began to degrade as their systems were damaged by repeated pinprick attacks. Mars' fleet arrived from the inner system, their retrofitted mining vessels burning hard. These were not warships by design, but humans had a saying: "Anything can be a weapon if you throw it hard enough." The mining ships, built to carry tons of ore, had been filled with explosives. They accelerated to maximum velocity and rammed Council vessels, their crews evacuating at the last second in emergency pods. It was desperate. It was insane. It was working. The Council fleet's advance slowed as they were forced to deal with attacks from every direction. The dreadnought at the center of the formation continued forward, protected by layers of warships, but its escorts were being whittled down. Captain Marcus Webb, recovered enough to take command of a new ship, led a boarding action against a Council cruiser. 25 humans in assault craft, launched from a damaged destroyer that could barely maintain life support. They crashed through the cruiser's hangar bay and fought their way inside. The Council crew had never experienced boarding actions before. Warfare in space was supposed to be clean, fought at distance with energy weapons and missiles. The idea of enemy soldiers inside your ship fighting deck by deck was something from their ancient history. The humans fought with a savagery that turned the Council crew's fear into panic. These were not soldiers fighting for territory or resources. These were defenders fighting for their home, for their families, for their species' survival. Every human knew that if they failed, Earth would burn. Webb's team reached the cruiser's reactor and planted charges. As they evacuated, the ship's captain tried to negotiate their surrender. Webb's response was short: "We are not here to take prisoners." The cruiser exploded, taking 2 nearby Council ships with it in the debris field. But the victories were temporary. The human fleet was being destroyed. For every Council ship they took down, they lost 2 of their own. The mathematics of the battle were clear. Humanity would lose. The dreadnought reached firing position in Earth's orbit. The Stellar Cascade device began its activation sequence, a process that would take 10 minutes. 10 minutes until the device would send a pulse of energy into the sun that would trigger a chain reaction, turning Sol into a supernova that would consume everything in the system. Dr. Sarah Chen, aboard a science vessel that was miraculously still intact, stared at her sensors readings. She had been studying the Cascade device since learning of its existence, trying to find a weakness, and she had found something. "Admiral," she transmitted to Kowalski, "the device requires a gravitic stabilization field to function. It is calibrated for 0.8 gravity standard. In Earth's 1.3 gravity well, the calculations are different. If we can accelerate the activation sequence, it will malfunction," Kowalski finished. "But how do we accelerate it?" "We do not need to," Sarah said, her voice urgent. "We just need someone to get aboard the dreadnought and override the safeties. Make the device think it is ready to fire early." Webb heard the transmission. He looked at his assault team, battered and exhausted from their fight aboard the cruiser. "Who is with me?" Every hand went up. They all knew it was a suicide mission. They all went anyway. 25 humans in assault craft racing across the space between the destroyed cruiser and the massive dreadnought. Council point defense weapons opened fire and 10 craft were destroyed instantly. The remaining 15 pushed forward, their pilots executing evasive maneuvers that pulled forces humans could barely survive. 5 more craft were lost, then 3 more. By the time they reached the dreadnought's hull, only 7 humans remained alive. Captain Webb, 4 Marines, and 2 engineers. They cut through the hull and fought their way inside. The dreadnought's crew tried to stop them, but they were scientists and technicians, not soldiers. The humans pushed forward with desperate speed, knowing every second brought the device closer to activation. They reached the device's control chamber with 2 minutes remaining in the activation sequence. One of the engineers, a woman named Lieutenant Sarah Martinez, accessed the control systems while the others held off Council security forces. "I cannot read these systems," Martinez said, her voice tight with stress. "I am guessing at everything." "Then guess fast," Webb said, firing at a Council security officer who tried to rush their position. Martinez's fingers flew over the alien interface, trying combinations, overriding safeties, doing everything she could think of to accelerate the device's activation. With 30 seconds left in the proper sequence, she found what she needed. "Got it," she shouted. "Activating now." The Stellar Cascade device powered up immediately, 5 minutes ahead of schedule. But it was inside Earth's gravity well, and the stabilization field was calibrated incorrectly. The mathematics that should have focused the pulse into a tight beam toward the sun instead created a feedback loop. Energy meant to destroy a star had nowhere to go. It reflected back on itself, building an intensity inside the dreadnought's containment systems. "Run!" Webb shouted. "Everyone out now!" They ran. Through corridors filled with panicking Council crew, through hangar bays where ships were trying to evacuate, through sections that were already tearing themselves apart from the building energy. They reached their assault craft and launched with seconds to spare. The dreadnought exploded, not in the simple explosion of a reactor breach, but in a cascade of energy that had been meant to kill a star. The blast was visible from Earth's surface, a second sun that briefly outshone the first. The 200 escort ships too close to the explosion were caught in the blast wave. Some were vaporized instantly. Others were sent tumbling through space, their systems dead, their crews killed by the radiation. The Council fleet was destroyed. The weapon that should have killed Earth had instead killed the fleet sent to deploy it. In the Council chamber, High Arbiter Zedexthal watched the tactical display go dark as his fleet vanished. He stared in silence for a long moment, unable to process what he had just witnessed. The Council's ultimate weapon, its supreme fleet, its unquestionable authority, all destroyed by a handful of humans who refused to die quietly. "We have lost," Crystal Choir said softly. Zexthal turned on the Luminarch. "We have not lost. We still have ships, we have nothing," Crystal Choir interrupted, her chiming voice sad. "You sent our greatest fleet and our most powerful weapon, and the humans destroyed them both. How many more of our people will you sacrifice before you admit the truth?" "What truth?" Zexthal demanded. "That we were wrong," a new voice said. Prism of Dawn, the young Luminarch who had questioned the war from the beginning, stepped forward. "We judged humanity by our standards and found them wanting. But they were never meant to meet our standards. They are Deathworlders. They survived a world that would kill us in hours, and we, in our arrogance, tried to control them." Other delegates began to speak up, agreeing with Prism of Dawn. The coalition that had supported Zexthal's aggressive stance crumbled. Within hours, he was removed from power, replaced by a council of moderates led by Prism of Dawn herself. 3 weeks later, Ambassador Elena Kovac stood before the Galactic Council once more, but this time the chamber was different. The air of superiority was gone, replaced by something approaching respect. Prism of Dawn spoke for the Council. "Ambassador Kovac, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize. We made a grave error. We judged your species by our standards and saw only violence. We failed to see that your violence serves a purpose, protection. You fight so fiercely because you protect so fiercely." She paused, her crystalline form refracting light into patterns that Elena had learned to recognize as sincerity. "The Council offers humanity full membership, equal status, no conditions, no restrictions. We ask only that you help us understand. Help us learn what it means to be survivors in a galaxy that we have made too comfortable." Elena looked around the chamber. She saw fear in some faces, respect in others, curiosity in many. She thought about Captain Webb, recovering from his third set of injuries. She thought about the 40,000 humans who had died defending their home. She thought about Earth, still spinning peacefully in space, its sun still burning because humanity refused to let it die. "We accept," Elena said. "On one condition." The chamber waited. "The Council will never again judge a species by the world that forged them. Death world or paradise world, every species deserves respect. Every species has value, and every species has the right to protect what they love." The vote was unanimous. For the first time in galactic history, a species from a Class 12 death world was granted full council membership. 6 months later, Dr. Sarah Chen published her groundbreaking paper on death world evolution. It became required reading across the galaxy, changing how species understood survival, adaptation, and strength. Captain Webb took command of the UN's Unity, the first ship co-crewed by humans and aliens working together as equals. His crew included Luminarchs, who taught humans about energy manipulation, and humans who taught the Luminarchs about endurance and determination. Elena retired from diplomacy and returned to Earth. In an interview, she reflected on the war and its aftermath. "They thought we were monsters," she said. "They looked at our history of violence and saw only primitives. But they did not understand that our violence was never the point. The point was what we were willing to fight for: family, home, the right to exist. Deathworlders do not fight because we want to. We fight because we have to. And when we fight, we do not give up. Ever." On Earth, a memorial was built for those who died defending the planet. 8 pillars of stone, each representing 1 billion people who survived because 40,000 gave their lives. The inscription was simple: "They came to our world to judge us. They found us wanting. But we taught them something they had forgotten. Survival is not about being the strongest. It is about being unwilling to quit. We are Deathworlders, and we endure